Hey everybody, what is going on? This is NGS and welcome back to another video. Now the topic for today is actually something I've been meaning to talk about for, well, too long. A very long time to say the least. To the point where I think I actually mentioned in a video a while back that I said I was going to talk about this particular topic. So that was a year ago. We're going to forget that I said I was going to do this video a year ago and actually do it today, because it wouldn't be the first time that I promised the video years ago and am finally fulfilling on it. Yo, 2015, we are 2 for 2 right now. We got that iCarly right in the books, and now we got this. Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to be talking all about the PlayStation Vita. Stay tuned. Welcome back, everyone. I know what a lot of you guys are thinking. Oh my god, this is going to be another fanboy damage control defense video about PlayStation Vita. This guy is going to get on here and talk about why the system is amazing, why it's so great, how there are so many good games on there, people aren't looking, or how it's just such a great piece of technology that Sony isn't taking advantage of. Relax, ladies and gentlemen, this is not going to be that video, because it is so easy for me to get on here and talk about all the good things about PlayStation Vita, because there are many good things about this system. But to be honest, you can watch any PlayStation Vita collection video and you can see that a lot of those people are going to say the exact same thing, because we're all like-minded individuals and we agree that the Vita is a great device. But that's not what I'm here for today. No, what I'm here to do is talk about a lot of the controversies that have been surrounding the system in the past couple of years. It's insane the amount of controversy that's been going on for this handheld, and just really give people, you know, an honest, down-to-earth perspective on really what happened with the system. So I'm pretty sure that you guys have seen an article or two in the past couple of weeks, especially recently with the news from Sony regarding Vita. You've heard a lot of people out there say that Vita is a dead platform, it's doom and gloom, it's time to pack it up, don't buy Vita because Sony's not going to be supporting it. You've seen a lot of people over the past couple of years, to be honest, ever since the system came out, I don't think it's ever died. A lot of people are saying that the Vita has no future. So the main question that I want to answer today is PlayStation Vita dead? Does it have a future? The answer to that question is PlayStation Vita is not dead. The PlayStation Vita is alive and kicking. Why? Because the system is still being manufactured and there are still tons and tons of games coming out for Vita. If you're looking at the game releases in Japan, the amount of games coming out for Vita, not necessarily just third-party games, but exclusives, you know, multi-platform titles with PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 3. It's phenomenal. The amount of support for the system is just growing and growing by the day. And that's from AAA studios down to indie games, both physical and digital. So the answer is yes, PlayStation Vita is alive and kicking. If you buy the system right now, there are tons and tons of games to play. However, it's not as simple as me just getting on here and saying that the system has games to play, because it's a lot more of a deeper conversation to be had with the system. So to first talk about PlayStation Vita, and the state it's in, we have to look at the system itself. This will tell you everything you need to know. Like I said, we're keeping it 100%. The sales really aren't that good, especially if you're comparing it to the competition, the Nintendo 3DS. But I don't think it's fair to compare the sales of the Vita to the Nintendo 3DS. Again, this is not me being a fanboy of the Vita, because while the sales of the 3DS, they freaking dwarf the Vita, I don't think it's as incriminating as the Vita compared to its predecessor, the PlayStation Portable. This is where I definitely think a lot went wrong with PlayStation Vita. Because if we're looking at the PSP, there are many reasons why it was a success. But it boils down to the 3 types of consumers who purchased the platform. And I'm going to explain to you guys who these 3 consumers are. Number 1, you had the casual multimedia user. What is a casual multimedia user? Well, if you're looking at a person nowadays, this is a person who enjoys music, movies, light gaming on the side. It's easy to buy a device nowadays that does all those things, but it was a different story in 2004 when the PlayStation Portable launched. In 2004, there was really never one device that did everything you wanted to do. If you're looking back into those days, you sometimes had to buy multiple devices to do all the things you wanted to do. The PlayStation Portable was, to my knowledge, one of the first devices that actually did just that. Everything. It was able to play all of your music. It was able to watch all of your movies. Watch all your movies. Is it really watching all your movies? I slept. You can watch movies on the PlayStation Portable. You can also play games. You can download content directly from the PlayStation Store. You have a web browser. A web browser on a handheld device, man. That's just insane. You didn't have to have a phone and have a data plan and do that. You had it on a handheld device, bruh. It was able to do so many things that, you would have to spend hundreds of dollars to get a device that did all that. Looking at the Apple iPod back in the day, you had to sometimes buy newer versions of the same device just to get those features. Y'all remember how it was back in the days. You had the original iPod, then you had the iPod Photo, then you had the iPod Video. You'd have to upgrade, 2 to 3 times just to get the same experience for a fraction of a price on PSP. I can personally recount to you guys the amount of people I know who bought a PSP just because it was able to do all of those media functions. It was insane for its time, and that is definitely where I think Sony got a pretty decent amount of their share.
Oh, Dustball! No way! You got a new PSP with a crazy widescreen LCD! Yeah, you can play games on it, movies, music, photos, get on the internet, download stuff, and it's portable! And they got tons and tons of games to choose from. And you can play them like anywhere, like on the moon, or riding a llama, or on top of a picnic table. And you can like play your friends with Wi-Fi and beat them so bad they had to change their name to Sally. Oh man, this is like totally chick magnet stuff! Yeah, I'd be watching a movie in a laundromat, and I see the sad girl, and she'll go, "Hey, girl, why you so sad?" And she says, "I lost my favorite sock." Then I'd go, "Don't be sad, I got a song for you." And then I play like a really happy song, and then she gets so happy that she started dancing with me. And then I put bubbles in the washing machine, and it become a foam show. And it'd be like so cool that people would take pictures and download them to the PSP. And girls would be begging to be in the pictures with me going, "Oh, Dustball, you're like a little slice of heaven." And then I put them on the internet, on my website, superhotdustball.com. And then every girl would download my pictures to their PSP, and they would want to eat the screen up like a hot fudge sundae.
The second type of owner of PlayStation Portable is the person I like to call the hype man. This is the person that really gave into the hype of the marketing. What was the major thing that you saw for PSP? It is PlayStation quality games in the palm of your hands. Again, it was something that was unheard of at the time. All of these fantastic franchises that you would see, from Kingdom Hearts to God of War, Monster Hunter, all of these amazing games playable in the palm of your hand. It was unheard of, and that was such a huge marketing, bump for Sony, especially when you're comparing it to stuff you saw on the Nintendo DS. The PSP was pushing out some pretty decent visuals for its time. So with that, you had a lot of people out there buying the PSP just because it was such a powerful device. Being able to play God of War on the go was something that was unheard of, especially considering that you were playing God of War and then not even a year or so later, they announced that it's coming to a handheld. Man, that's just incredible when you think about it. And the third type of gamer should be pretty self-explanatory. It's the core gamer. This is the person who bought the PSP because they are an avid consumer, they wanted to play their favorite franchises, and they wanted to see the new experiences that a Sony handheld would offer. So right there you have the three types of consumers who contributed to the PSP's success. And to be honest, the PSP was a success if you're looking at its sales figures. Of course, it doesn't compare to the Nintendo DS, but for Sony, this being their first foray into the handheld market, it was just a resounding success. And I'm not going to sit here and try to, talk about the things that, led to PSP's downfall, because that's not really going to be constructive for the video. What's really important for you guys to understand is the three types of people who bought PSP and how that affects the Vita as a whole. Because when you're going into the Vita, natural logic and all of that mumbo jumbo would dictate that, the Vita comes out. It is the successor to the PlayStation Portable. So all Sony really had to do to be a success was, just improve on the PSP, which is what they did. If you're looking at this on paper, it's a pretty fancy, high-piece technology thingy-mabobber, because it does that. You got the best visuals out in the market right now. You have new ways to play, better multimedia features. You have so many more integrations with social media. and you have a brand new form of control with the analog stick. So you have all those things going for it. Why in the world is the Vita tanking? Why is it not doing as well as we expected it to do? The answer to that, ladies and gentlemen, should be, well, pretty self-explanatory. The consumer got with the times, and Sony didn't. So, you remember I said we had those 3 types of consumers who bought PlayStation Portable? 2 out of the 3 vanished. And I think you know why. The first type of consumer, the multimedia user, that person who bought PSP in 2004 for the video, photo, movie capabilities, all those features, they could get that in the palm of their hands with the smartphone. Any smartphone that is released nowadays has those capabilities, and they are exponentially better than what you can get on PlayStation Vita. So it makes no sense for somebody to buy a separate piece of technology for $250 at the time to do things that their smartphone does better, especially if they're also paying for a brand new smartphone like a flagship phone like an iPhone or a Samsung Galaxy. It makes no sense for them to buy a separate platform for something that they really didn't use, being games. The second type of consumer, the hype man. Hype men don't have no loyalty to nothing. Y'all know this. Y'all freaking know this. This type of person is the one who moved straight into the HD generation. They were sold on the hype of 1080p, 60 frames per second. They were sold on the fact that you can get these huge experiences on your 65-inch plasma screen TV. So what incentive is there for them to buy this device that, while the games look very good on it, is not going to be that full 1080p and they can see everything up on the big screen? Those type of people had no incentive to buy PlayStation Vita. The third type of consumer, the core audience. Why are these consumers the ones who are still there? Because they are gamers. These are the guys who actively go out there and support the system because they want to get experiences that they cannot get on any other handheld. And that is where PlayStation Vita is right now. The people who own the Vita are the dedicated. They are the guys out there who want to play these experiences because they know that they're worth playing. To put this into perspective for you guys, there was an interview that was put out from the developer behind Guacamelee and how he was talking very highly of PlayStation Vita owners because PlayStation Vita owners buy games. There might not be a lot of owners out there, but they support the platform. The attach rate is really high for the system. And another really good example is digital support for PlayStation Vita. There was, I believe, an Atelier game that came out, you know, straight out of nowhere. If you weren't a fan of the Atelier series, which is a pretty niche franchise as is, you wouldn't have known about this. But when that thing was put on the PlayStation Store, it was #1 for, I think, you know, a couple of weeks. So Vita owners out there are dedicated. They know the games that are coming out for the systems and they support it, which is why so many games are still coming out of Japan because they know there's an audience there. Sure, their game might not do, you know, 2, 3, 4 million in sales, but they're definitely getting enough for them to turn a profit, which is the most important thing at the end of the day, especially for a handheld. So if that's the reason why the Vita isn't selling well, if that's the external reason why, where does the internal problems lie? Lies on Sony, ladies and gentlemen. Sony is to blame for, I would say, a lot of the things that are happening with the Vita. There are many things for it, which I'm not really going to get too much into because you guys, like I said, have already heard this before. First and foremost, the memory card debacle. PlayStation Vita uses proprietary memory, ladies and gentlemen. Whereas smartphone devices are using micro SD cards for their storage, PlayStation Vita has its own brand of storage that is unique to the system. And if you wanted to, you know, amass a large digital library of games, that was going to be the only way for you to get more storage on there. Especially considering that these games range anywhere from 2 to 5 gigabytes in size. So when this thing came out on the market, the price for the memory cards was outrageous. It was insane. Not just comparing it to standard, you know, micro SD card memories, but just in general, you would be paying, you know, sometimes twice the cost of a Vita game for, you know, 16 gigs of storage. It was just insane, and it definitely deterred a lot of people from owning the system because if you're going to be spending more on the memory than you are a game, you know that's a problem. While the memory card debacle, I like to think, and a lot of people like to think, was a real big reason why Vita wasn't a success, it's not as big as people make it out to be. Because, like I said, you can find deals on it out there if you really want to play the games. Not saying that that's a defense for it, but it's not the biggest reason why. The second reason lies in the marketing for the system. this is probably one of the worst marketing that I've ever seen for a handheld device, you know, next to the Wii U. If the Wii U was the most brand confusing marketing out there for a console, I have to say PlayStation Vita marketing was probably the most unaware. Because if you're looking at the marketing that was put out for the system, they were advertising games like Call of Duty, all these big AAA franchises on the Vita, you know, with 4G capabilities, you'll be able to play multiplayer on the go. While Call of Duty may be a really big franchise and millions upon millions of fragheads, myself included, like to play it, no one's trying to play Call of Duty on the go. Call of Duty is that experience that is saved for the home entertainment experience. It is saved for you getting together and playing with your friends. No one's trying to play Call of Duty on the go on the train, especially on the subway where you can lose reception just like that. So I don't know what Sony was thinking when they were trying to put Call of Duty on there and they were marketing this as a device that you can use anywhere with 4G. Why in the world would somebody get a separate 4G plan for a device that not a lot of games utilized online multiplayer? It kind of made no sense. I mean, they're trying to say that, oh, this will be a companion to your smartphone, but this thing is like the size of a smartphone and a half. So why would you advertise 4G capabilities on a device where no, it's going to really take a lot spending money for no reason? I'm sorry, you guys. I know this video is already super long as is, but I just had to show this commercial. Look at this commercial. What in the world? What? Who does these things? Who thinks to themselves, hey man, I'm just chilling on a roof with a bunch of my friends. Oh man, I'm gonna play some Call of Duty. Hey man, I'm gonna play some Call of Duty too. Whoa, you're playing Call of Duty as well. Man, get this ish out of here. But you know what the sad thing is? We're all gonna be doing this next year with Pokemon Go. I digress. Back to the video. Black Ops Declassified. So the marketing really wasn't there. Not a lot of people even knew that the Vita existed. If you were looking at the shelf space that you'd see at some stores, they sometimes lump it in with the PSP because, to be honest, there wasn't really enough of a push to get people to, you know, get it ingrained in their minds that, hey, this is the natural, logical successor to the PlayStation Portable. I know a lot of people are going to say that, well, obviously it's a different device than PSP. It looks different, it's sleeker, and it has a different name. What y'all don't understand is that branding is one of the most important things whenever you are launching anything, especially in technology when you have so many devices out there that are really beginning to look like just giant black slates. The most important thing that you could do is differentiate yourself from the competition. Why do you think that Apple is so successful every single year when it comes to launching a brand new iPhone? That's really not too different from the last. No, it's not because there are a lot of iTards out there. No, it's not because Apple is such a, you know, wow, amazing, awesome, no one's ever done it before company. It's because their branding is some of the best in the world. When you know that the next iPhone's coming out, you know whatever small, minute, new additions they have for their phone, you know what they are. You know the new things about them. That is why the iPhone keeps making groundbreaking sales numbers. PlayStation Vita, it's like PSP but better. Woohoo! But it's not just the marketing that is a problem with PlayStation Vita. What about those exclusives? What about those AAA games that Sony promised us? You know, you're going to be able to play Call of Duty and Killzone and Uncharted and all these fantastic, phenomenal AAA games that you got in your console. It kind of goes back to what I said when you had the three types of consumers. The hype man, the person who would love to play those games like Killzone and Call of Duty, you know, games with beautiful visuals. It goes back to them wanting to play these fantastic experiences on a 55+ inch TV. Why in the world would they want to play this on their smartphone size screen? If you're looking at the sales figures for games like Uncharted, Killzone, Gravity Rush, and the like, they actually did pretty good for the handheld. For the amount of people out there who own a Vita, the game sold. However, just because the game sold doesn't mean that it was all good for Sony. Because when you're looking at these games like Uncharted and Killzone, to say two titles in particular, you know, these games are beautiful. They are some of the, not just best handheld looking games, but some of the best looking games of the generation. You know, the things that they were able to pull off on the Vita, it's just simply astonishing. So you must think that with visuals that beautiful, that these budgets are going to be pretty high. And they were. The budget for Vita games, especially AAA ones like those, I'm pretty sure that they were through the roof. So if they could not make their budget back through the game sales, what incentive is there for Sony to actually go out there and push for a sequel? Which is why we're seeing that the people who worked on the Vita games are now working on PlayStation 4 titles. Because PlayStation 4 is selling and Vita is not. Like it or not, ladies and gentlemen, this is business 101 at the end of the day. If something is not making a profit enough, whether it's something that's good or bad, whether we want to believe that it's worthy of a sequel, if it's not doing the sales numbers, they're not going to continue it. And that's why Sony isn't making as big of a push for AAA titles as they used to, because it's not enough to continue that AAA model. It kind of goes back to why we're seeing so many Japanese games out there. Japanese developed RPGs that you would see on PlayStation Vita, I'm sure that they don't cost nowhere near as much as something like an Uncharted Golden Abyss. So that's why we're able to see sequels of those, because they're able to make a return on their initial investment. Whereas Uncharted, that's a big budget game, guys. And since so many games are doing well on PlayStation 4, that's why we're seeing a lot of games that started on Vita getting moved over to the PlayStation 4 because they know an audience is there. That's why Tearaway got ported to PS4. That's why Gravity Rush got ported to PS4, and its sequel is the PS4 exclusive. So while we want to sit here and complain that, you know, the Vita has no games, all the games are moving to PS4, why isn't this game a Vita exclusive? We kind of have to look at ourselves and realize that, you know, what do we want? Do we want these games to be Vita exclusives? Because if we do, we have to support them. And if we're not supporting them, they're going to put it on a platform that they know people will support. You know, as much as I would have loved to play the sequel to Gravity Rush on the Vita, I know that the only reason we're able to get a Gravity Rush 2 is because of the success of PlayStation 4. We wouldn't have gotten it on PlayStation Vita. And that's the harsh reality we kind of have to understand. Now, it's easy for us to get on camera and say that Sony is the evil bad guy in this. They don't know how to support the Vita. They don't know how to understand the handheld market. But what we kind of have to understand is when you're looking at this, it's not as simple as we think it is. You know, the handheld market, while it is still thriving, it has definitely lost a lot of its steam to the smartphone and tablet market. I mean, looking at the Nintendo 3DS, sure, it's a success, but guys, don't sit here and deny that the 3D wasn't a huge gimmick for the system, because that's what sold a lot of people on it. A lot of kids back in the day. Sure, you have your Marios and your Zeldas, and I would say Metroid, but rest in peace, Metroid. A lot of people want a device that is the jack of all trades to do everything, be it watch movies, listen to music, and
take pictures and download them to the PSP,
and do a little bit of light gaming on the side. That's why Nintendo 3DS, even though it is such a big success for Nintendo, it's not doing Nintendo DS numbers, and it never will. And that's why PlayStation Vita is in the state that it's in right now, you guys. Sony could have done a lot right with the system. They definitely could have. But what they're doing right now is just what they can to salvage the system. And if that means selling this as a PlayStation 4 remote play device, be it. If it means all they're going to do is advertise third-party games and, you know, spend money developing a PlayStation Vita version of a game that's coming out on PS4, then so be it. That's the situation of PlayStation Vita, and I really don't think it's going to get better than it is right now. Are we still going to see games for the system? Yes. Like I said, look at the amount of games that are coming out from Japan for the system. We're going to see a lot of those. So we've come to this point of the video. Would I recommend a person buy PlayStation Vita? To be honest, I would say that if you are the average everyday consumer who does a little bit of gaming on the side, the PlayStation Vita is not for you. This is the device for the person who loves video game handhelds. If you want the best of video game handhelds, pick up a PlayStation Vita. More specifically, if you love Japanese RPGs, Japanese niche titles, those games, definitely pick up a PlayStation Vita, because you have so many games that are being brought over from great publishers like Atlus, NIS, Xseed, Bandai Namco Games. You know, they're really committed to bringing over a lot of these games for PlayStation Vita. And in some cases, we don't get the PlayStation Vita versions, but we do get PlayStation 4 versions. So if you're a fan of the PlayStation ecosystem as a whole, PlayStation Vita is definitely something to add to your library if you want to play those games that you know you're not going to get on other devices. So ladies and gentlemen, that was the topic for this week on PlayStation Vita. It's definitely something that I really hold near and dear to my heart. As you can tell, I don't know how long this video was, but it's something that's very somber, and you know, it definitely paints a pretty gray picture for the handheld field. You know, looking forward into the next generation, I don't think that Sony is going to put out a new handheld because it's just not cost effective to them at all. It wouldn't make sense for them to get out there and put another device just for them to not see a big return on it. You know, this is business 101, like I said. Even Nintendo, I'm sure, is probably having, you know, not necessarily second thoughts, but they're trying their hardest to find a way to make it appealing to people, because if it's so easy as you just getting a contract for your kid for a brand new cell phone, and this is going to be their multimedia device, what incentive is there for you to buy them a Nintendo 3DS this Christmas? Just for Mario? It's not looking like it's going to be like that for much longer. So ladies and gentlemen, I really hope you enjoyed this video. I'm GS signing out, and like always, I will catch you guys later. Peace.